Welcome to the continent. It sounds really weird saying that, but that is actually the name of the continent that you play on during the game of The Witcher 3. I would say welcome back because no doubt most of you, if not all of you, have already played this game. I would say I'm late to the party with making a video on this, but that would mean that the party was still ongoing. I think I've not only missed the party, but I've missed the cleanup as well at this stage. However, I did want to do a video on this game for multiple reasons. One, because I don't think my opinion will be as expected. And secondly, because linked to that previous statement, I think it's quite controversial as well. So let's get right into the video. So for those people who haven't played The Witcher 3, who may have been sleeping inside this long abandoned shack, for example, the game is set in a fictional land. It's not based in historical reference. As I say, it's based on an island or a continent called the Continent, and it's during a time of war between Nilfgaard and Redania. They are basically the two political powers in this region at the time. Now, it's very set in fantasy, so you did have lots of fantastical creatures such as griffins, wights, which are basically a type of ghost. You have vampires and various other nasty fantasy, I should say, creatures. The Witcher is, in essence, a monster hunter. Not in the same vein as Capcom's game, unfortunately. This is much more of a visceral game. It's less of a power fantasy game. So if you're expecting to feel ridiculously powerful right from the start, unfortunately, you are not going to enjoy this game. I will come on to more of the gameplay later, but I wanted to open this video with more world building, simply because I think that's the one thing that this game does very well. Now, I mentioned at the beginning that my opinion on this game probably isn't going to be what's expected. I am going to start with that. I originally did not like this game. I'm still not of the opinion that this is a game of the year. I'm still not of the opinion that it is the best RPG ever. Yes, Mr. Cavill, I don't agree with you on that score. I do think it's got some good points. I do think it has a lot of things wrong with it, and I do think it's tried to do too many things at the same time. I will get into all of those. So from a world building perspective, one thing that CD Projekt Red got right when they made this game was the character building. The actual characters themselves, whether you like the character or whether you don't like the character, they are really well crafted. And the fact that you can actually like or dislike the character based on the way they interact with the world just goes to show how well the actual character building in this game works. Now, I personally think Geralt of Rivia, the person that you play, is an absolute arse. I do not like him in the slightest. There are certain aspects of the game which make that worse, and that is the fact that in some cases you do not get to pick what you want to do, so you have no choice in your action. That does also lead into that dislike of the character, because he does and says some things that are, in my opinion, quite reproachable, and it's because of the type of person, type of character, the type of creature he is. I will get more into the term creature shortly. But yeah, there's a lot about the character I dislike. That doesn't mean he's not extremely well crafted, so he does have very personal traits. And it's testament to the game developers that they have managed to do that and managed to get me to dislike him quite so well as they have. Now, there's very few games that have managed to do that. I have found games where I've really liked the character before. I do really like Aloy from Horizon games, for example, because I think the character generation and character creation for those games are also extremely good. The new God of War games, again, I didn't really like Kratos, but I think that was purposeful. I think they made him into a dislikable character for a very specific reason, but that's a different game. So, world building. They really have built up the world in this game. It's an open world. You get this big map, and it is specific to your region, so you can kind of flick between different stages of the map. You can go to your world map for the regions, and then you have your region map as well. You can go anywhere on that map whenever you like. Okay, maybe not flick between the different regions, but anywhere within that region you can go. It doesn't seem to have a level cap, so unlike some RPGs, you don't tend to have, if you go to this northern part of this map, you will get absolutely wasted because the enemies are too high. I haven't seen that in all of the times that I've played the game. I must admit I have never completed this game. So this is not going to be a full review of the story because I can't really do that. And that's another reason why my opinions are probably going to be quite controversial. It does seem to be that if you haven't completed a game, you're not allowed an opinion on a game, which I don't necessarily believe. I do think you need to have put a fair amount of time into it to have an opinion, but I don't think you have to have completed it. Let's face it, you're not going to complete a game that you just do not like, and not liking a game is still a valid opinion. So let's get into some of the more important things. Now, for me, the combat in this game is lacking. It may be because I'm just not too good, as you can see from what's happening on screen, but I find it extremely clunky. Now, I should preface that with the fact that this is a very old game now. This game originally released in 2015 on the PlayStation 4. So it is 9 years old this year. In fact, it's over 9 years because I believe it was May 2015 it released. So we've had a significant improvement in game mechanics, etc. since then. And with games like Horizon and the actual combat mechanics in that, and God of War and things, it really has stepped up that bar. The fact that I did play this when it released, and I wasn't overly keen on it then, possibly was also because at the time I was used to a very different type of combat within games. But even going back to it now, I do find the combat quite clunky. The whole parrying system is just holding block, and of course, although I don't like Souls games, I do find that the whole parry at the right time mechanic just seems to work, and I do seem to be relatively good at it. I'm not going to say I'm the world's best because I'm definitely not, but Ghost of Tsushima, for instance, that mechanic in that game was just unbelievably good, and I do miss it when I play The Witcher 3. I also find that when you're ganged up on by groups of enemies, it's extremely hard to identify what's going on. So you're trying to attack something and wolves jump backwards and hop sideways. I've never ever seen dogs or wolves fight like that at all. They either run past. I've never seen dogs jump backwards before, but they do tend to in this game. And it's a little bit jarring, especially when you're in the middle of a combo and mid-combo a dog just jumps backwards. It just doesn't seem to sit right with me. That's not to say that the combat system is wholly broken. I do like the twin sword mechanic. So you have your normal steel sword when you're fighting humans or normal animals, and you have your silver sword when you're fighting creatures. Those creatures being mythical creatures, being, such as ghosts, ghouls, griffins, dryads, any sort of mystical creature. Now, I mentioned creature when I talked about Geralt earlier. He is actually a mutant, so he has been worked upon to have his mutant Witcher ability. So he has like cat senses and various other things. His eyes are yellow. It allows him to see in the dark. He can drink some form of substance, which I cannot remember what it is, but he can drink some form of substance to make him more powerful. You see that in the Witcher series that Henry Cavill starred in. Don't bother watching season 4. I do not believe he's in it. But anyway, it does make him extremely powerful, and because of that, they're extremely feared because they are no longer truly human. That being said, it does mean that he is able to use certain abilities called signs, and that's the magic within the game. Now, one of the issues I have with the combat is you have basically your primary and secondary attack are your heavy and light, and that's almost all you can do. You do have your signs, and you can select which one you want, which slows down time. This is single player only, no multiplayer at all. So it slows down time. You can select your sign, and then you can use it provided your energy is charged. Now, the energy is shown just underneath your health bar. It's the yellow bar underneath the wolf icon in the top left-hand corner. It doesn't charge very quickly, so do not expect to become a spell slinger. It's not going to happen. You are first and foremost a sword swinger, a melee specialist. That, to me, limits the combat that you can do, and that is part of my issue. Like I say though, combat's not all bad. It can be quite satisfying when you're basically fighting a large enemy and you have to plan your attack, plan traps and various other things. It can be quite decent, but just be aware it's not going to be any Dark Souls level of precision to this game. Now, if you have a different opinion and you have a different experience with the game, please do let me know in the comments below, because I would be interested to hear what I'm doing wrong, if anything. So let's move on to the other important aspects. I'm not going to cover the sound too much, because I think the sound in games these days, I've mentioned this in reviews and videos like this before, but I think the sound in games is got to the stage where they're all pretty decent. There's very few games which have poor sound these days. I think sound designers, especially in games, are, well, they know their job, let's put it that way. The impact sounds, the combat sounds, just the music in general in the background usually fits really well. So the only time I tend to mention music is when it's done exceptionally well. And by that I mean such as the music in Horizon Zero Dawn when that first came out. Oh, that sent chills. Anthem, the music in Anthem, even the music in Godfall, they were done exceptionally well. But this is more, I'm going to say more medieval music, which you would expect from this type of setting. Nothing over the top, nothing outstanding though, but good sound effects nonetheless. Now, what I wanted to talk about is the graphical design. Obviously, this is a remaster of an older game, and because of that, obviously, we are limited to what they could do without remaking all of the textures and meshes. They have done an extremely good job of upscaling and re-texturizing the world, and although on screen at the moment it's in performance mode to try and get the video as smooth as possible for you guys, I have switched this to performance mode, to quality mode. And the reason I've done that is because it does give ray tracing, and the ray tracing is actually done really nice. It does give really nice shadows and just light speckles on Geralt as well. So although at the moment he kind of almost stands out from the background because he is very well lit all of the time, when you put the ray tracing on, obviously he does get quite dark when he's out of the sun, so it does give quite a bit more contrast, which is really nice. Now, we can't talk about The Witcher 3 without talking about the quest system. as with any RPG, you have to have a very good, very functional quest system for it to work. And this does have a very good, very functional quest system. It's one of the best things that I have seen in this game while I've been playing it. One problem I do have with the quest system, however, is specifically this quest that I'm about to kind of reach a midpoint in. It doesn't explain how to do things when it drops you in them. So this, I've done half the quest, and I'm just about to get into a horse chase. And it says to you, knock the merchant from his horse. Okay? Doesn't tell you how to knock the merchant from his horse. So there's me trying to think, right, now when you're out and about and you don't have a weapon equipped, you basically swing your fists, so you get in a fist fight. Now to me, if you sort of ride up to somebody and you punch them in the back of the head, that's going to knock them off their horse. So a number of times I rode up to the guy, I got extremely close, and I pressed the square button, which is the normal attack button, and nothing happened. My horse hit his, I almost stopped, and literally nothing happens. And then I thought maybe I just ride into his horse, and that doesn't do anything either. It took me so long to work out that you actually have to draw your sword and hit him. But then when you do draw your sword, while you're on horseback, the actual animation for swinging your sword from horseback is so slow that you have to almost swing your sword from about 10 meters behind, which again just to me seems ridiculous, because it does not take that long to swing a sword when you're on horseback. It takes as long to swing a sword on horseback as it does when you're standing up. There's no difference, especially for an experienced sword fighter. The other problem that I had was you saw the horse got stuck on what was a broken box. In a lot of games, especially these days, and again I go back to the fact this is a 9-year-old game, so I understand that the processing power wasn't there to do this at the time. But normally in games these days, if you get stuck on something, the horse jumps over it. It doesn't do that in this. The other thing was glitches like this. So I've managed to ride to an encampment of somebody and knocked him off his horse in this encampment, and it got me off, and I stood inside one of the people in the encampment. I'm also having this full interaction after just smashing this guy off his horse in front of these people. They're all just standing in the background not doing anything. And I get this is a cutscene, I get it. But the fact that they're actually there in the background of the cutscene, just completely ignoring this interaction, is just a little bit weird with the RPGs that are out there today. I mean, we've got games like Ghost of Tsushima, like Horizon, where everything does tend to interact with what you're doing. Everybody does tend to react at the very least. And yeah, it's probably a little bit jarring to see that sort of thing this day and age. Now, I know that a lot of you out there will have played this game, have really fond memories of this game, probably still play it, and completely disagree with what I am saying, and that is absolutely fine. You know, please leave a comment, as I said before, let me know why you think that I am wrong in this. But I think if you have not played this game before and you were to pick it up today, you would be wondering why everyone thought this game was so good when it first came out. Don't get me wrong, it has its good points. It's really big open world is one of them, but I don't think it's as massive and as good as it was made out to be. Now, one thing that I do like, and I like in all open world RPGs, are these message boards. Now, these message boards are places where people can place, or I say people, it's not people, where the game can place so-called quests from people into an area where you can just go to, so you can ride to a centralized board rather than having to go to each individual person within the world. I do like that sort of thing because it's kept in game while almost being a menu, and I like that type of interaction. Notice boards would have played a big part in culture back then. I mean, they did in the UK for quite a long time, up until recently, until the internet. But notice boards and message boards would have played a pivotal role in communication back then. So I really do like the fact that they do utilise that. Basically posting up, you know, we want volunteers, or somebody help me find this person, whatever it might be. You can then accept those quests from these notice boards, and it will signpost you to where you either need to go or the person you need to speak to. Absolutely love it. Now, other things that I do like about this game, in some respects, are sometimes when you take on quests, you will get like cutscenes, not like CGI cutscenes. They're all in-game, but they do kind of take you out of the world. You don't necessarily get this just person talking at you like the whole Skyrim situation sometimes happens, where you've just got a face in front of you. In this, you do get people move in the background, etc. And it just seems to be a little more backwards and forwards. You do flow a bit more, mainly because your character is set, so they can voice act your character's lines as well. And although in RPGs in general, and people who've watched my channel before will know that I believe for it to be a real RPG, you should be able to create your own character. Character creation for me is a huge part of the RPG genre. How do you play a role if you can't create your role? You're just playing somebody else's character. But anyway, because they are set characters and they can give your character a voice because they know what your character is, he has a whole backstory, he has a whole personality. Because they do that, it does make these quest interactions much better. Now, one other thing that I do find quite, not annoying, but quite interesting, is when I was taking some of the quests, certain parts of those quests couldn't be interacted with until you selected the quest as the active one. Now, it might have just been really bad luck on my part, but I wanted to show this quest specifically because the idea was that I was trying to track down some footprints or something of somebody who had basically been hiding around behind this forge before setting a light to it. Now, I'm using Witcher Sense to try and find these footprints or this evidence, I suppose. Evidence that somebody had been here before. Now, all I can see is these interactive bushes. That's what the yellow glow is. It's basically interactive to say you can grab hold of this or take it or whatever it might be. But I couldn't find any evidence that somebody had been here. Now, as you can see from the actual quest that's located top right hand of the screen, just underneath the minimap, is I'm still on a slightly different mission as my highlighted mission. Now, because of that, I believe it wasn't showing me what I needed to see, because it's showing me everything else but what I needed to see. However, and this is what I noticed when I was doing this voiceover, there was a slight red highlight just on the map back there. Very slight highlight. The problem with missions like this is you need to be looking in exactly the right direction, and you can't have anything else impeding your vision. And that has caused me a number of times to walk around in circles many times over, because you get just the wrong angle, and what I'm looking for is just behind that bush ahead. But because I'm looking at it, the bush was in the way. It wouldn't show you the red behind it. And that to me is a bit of a poor design. You should be able to see. And these footprints didn't show up beforehand. They weren't there. Until you find the tinder, the red footprints don't show up. And to me, that doesn't make any sense. Why part of the clue doesn't appear until you found the first part they want you to find makes no sense at all. Because why was I looking for a tinderbox? I'd be looking for footprints for somebody who was hanging around and then ran off. That's exactly what I was looking for. So things like that do irritate me slightly in games. You have to do it in the order they want you to find the clues in. And to me, that that's just a little bit irritating. It shouldn't make that much of a difference. It also means the footprints don't show up until you have found the tinder, which again is just a bit ridiculous, because if I'd have stumbled across these footprints before and then I'd gone to the house and then they'd said somebody was hanging around, and I'd gone, well, there was some footprints that kind of led from the beach, I wonder what they were, I could have backtracked from the beach to the house and gone, yeah, they were definitely them. So that would have been quite interesting and quite nice way of doing it, but you can't do that, unfortunately. But anyway, I think it's not a review video. I don't think I've played quite enough of it to be able to do a review, but these are just my opinions on The Witcher 3 in 2024. I get why people really like it. I do think the world is a really nice universe. They've created a really good, solid universe. I do think that Geralt is a bit of an arse as a character. I don't like him at all, mainly for the actions that he undertakes. I like him more now I've watched Henry Cavill's portrayal of him, because I think he's got into the character psyche more, and because he's more, I don't know, he's made him more real. I think I can see the emotion on his face more, and that makes a big difference, because the age of the game means you do not see human emotion on Geralt's face at all. So his actions are completely emotionless, if that makes sense. Whereas because Henry Cavill's character obviously has Henry Cavill's emotions behind it, I think it's put his spin on the character, and that's made it more likable. But as far as the game, taking out all of the TV show, I think Geralt of Rivia as a character is horrible. I don't think he's a nice person at all, which basically means I don't want to play as him, because I always like to play as the nice guy. You know, whether that's stupid or not, I always do like to play as the nice guy. So to me, that is one of the reasons that I don't think this game is quite as good as it should be. It doesn't give me the option to play as the nice guy. I always have to be a bit of an arse, which I don't like. But let me know what you think down in the comments. Let me know if you think I'm completely and utterly wrong. I'm sure a lot of you will do. Also, please do leave a comment down below about your opinions on the game, what other things you would like to see in the future, and just general conversation. Do you want me to go back to some old games or anything like that? Click the like button if you have enjoyed this video specifically, and also please make sure you do subscribe if you haven't done already. I hope to see you for my next video very soon. You all remember, take care and bye for now.